The Galactic Concord had known peace for over 3,000 years. 217 species shared the stars, trading resources and knowledge across tens of thousands of worlds. They had forgotten what it meant to truly fear. That changed the day they met humans. The research vessel, Horizon, drifted slowly through the darkness near Neptune's orbit. Inside, Captain Laura Mitchell stared at the blinking alert on her console. The ship's sensors had detected something massive approaching from the outer system. "Get me visual confirmation," she ordered, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. The main screen flickered to life, showing a vessel unlike anything humans had ever built. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent material that seemed to shift colors as it moved. The ship was at least 5 times larger than the Horizon. "No matching configuration in our database," said Communications Officer Doug Miller. His fingers trembled slightly as they moved across his keyboard. "Captain, I think we just made first contact." Laura took a deep breath. Decades of training had prepared humanity for this moment, but theory was different from reality. "Battle stations," she said quietly, "but weapons on standby only. Let's not start an interstellar incident." The alien ship slowed as it approached. The crew of the Horizon watched in tense silence as the massive vessel came to a stop just 2 kilometers away. "They're hailing us," Doug announced. "Some kind of visual transmission." "Put it on screen," Laura ordered. The face that appeared wasn't what anyone expected. The being had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around a central mouth. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to ripple with small movements, like the surface of water. The alien spoke, and the ship's computer worked to translate. After several attempts, broken English came through the speakers. "Greetings, unknown vessel. We are the Varlins of the Galactic Concord. We come with peaceful intentions." Captain Mitchell stood straighter. "This is Captain Laura Mitchell of the Earth research vessel Horizon. We also come in peace." The conversation that followed was cautious but productive. The Varlins explained that they were a trading species who had detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's solar system. They had come to investigate the possibility of new trading partners. Later that day, after the initial exchange, the Varlian captain sent a private message to the Concord Central Authority. "The beings call themselves humans." The message read, "They demonstrated unusual behavior by our standards. Initial contact produced signs of fear, as expected from a lesser-developed species. However, they immediately moved to controlled aggression and then overwhelming curiosity. Their vessel was prepared for combat within moments of our arrival, yet they maintained peaceful communications. Most peculiar was their reaction after confirming our peaceful intent. They requested immediate knowledge exchange rather than retreat. Recommend caution in future interactions." News of the contact spread quickly on Earth. Within weeks, the United Earth Space Command was formed to handle extraterrestrial relations. Lieutenant John Davis was selected as humanity's first diplomat to the Concord. During his first meeting with the Concord Council, John accidentally cut his hand on a decorative crystal. The assembled aliens watched in shock as he simply wrapped the wound with a cloth and continued his presentation without pause. "Did you not experience pain?" asked one council member afterward. "Of course," John replied, confused by the question. "But the meeting was important." The council members exchanged troubled glances. Most species in the Concord would have required immediate medical attention and recovery time for such an injury. That evening, Kelfar, the Concord's chief xenobiologist, made a private entry in the official database. Under the newly created file for humans, he wrote a single note. Classification: potentially hazardous. Reasoning: shows unusual tolerance for physical discomfort, demonstrates persistence through injury, exhibits combination of caution and aggression not seen in other species. Recommendation: further study required to determine threat level. Kelfar didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of humanity's journey to becoming the most feared combatants in the galaxy. 5 years passed since humans first met the aliens of the Galactic Concord. Earth had established its first colony on Proxima Centauri, a rocky planet that orbited the closest star to our sun. Nearly 3,000 people lived there now, building a new home under the red skies of an alien world. Governor Patricia Williams looked out the window of the colony's main building. She watched the settlers work in the greenhouses where earth plants grew in special soil. The message she had just received made her stomach tight with worry. "Are you sure about this?" she asked the man standing beside her. Marine Commander Ryan Clark nodded. His face was serious. "Our deep space sensors picked them up 2 hours ago. 6 Xarketh warships. They're not responding to our calls." The Xarketh were a warrior race from the edge of Concord space. They looked like tall, thin humans with gray skin and 4 arms. They were known for their fighting skills and their dislike of other species taking territory near their worlds. "How long until they get here?" Patricia asked. 3 hours at most, Ryan said. "We've sent a distress call to Earth, but help won't arrive for at least a week." Patricia took a deep breath. "Then we hold until help comes." Ryan looked surprised. "Governor, we have 40 soldiers and some basic weapons. They could have thousands of warriors." She turned to face him. "This is our home now, Commander. We're not giving it up without a fight." Ryan thought for a moment, then smiled slightly. "Yes, Mom. I'll get everyone ready." The Xarketh ships landed later that day. Just as Ryan had feared, nearly 2,000 warriors marched out, carrying energy weapons and wearing armor that gleamed in the red sunlight. Their leader, War Chief Kraz Tul, sent a message to the colony. "Humans of Proxima Centauri," the message said. "This world is now claimed by the Xarketh Empire. Surrender now, and you may live as our servants. Resist, and you will be destroyed." Patricia sent a simple reply. "We decline your offer." The Xarketh attacked at dawn the next day. They expected an easy victory. What they found instead was that the humans had spent the night turning their colony into a fortress. Every building was a trap. Every path had hidden dangers. Commander Ryan had organized the colonists into small teams. Even those who weren't soldiers learned to fight. Children helped by carrying supplies and messages between groups. On the 3rd day of fighting, a group of Xarketh warriors cornered Ryan and 5 of his people in a storage building. A blast from an energy weapon hit Ryan in the shoulder, burning through his armor. The pain was terrible, but he kept fighting. He shot 3 warriors before the others retreated. "How are you still standing?" asked Lisa Chen, one of his team members, as she helped bandage his wound. Ryan winced but managed a smile. "Can't lie down on the job when there's work to be done." Days turned into weeks. The Xarketh couldn't understand how the small group of humans kept fighting. Every time they thought they had won, the humans would appear somewhere else, attacking from hiding places, and then disappearing again. On day 25, War Chief Kraz Tul watched through viewing equipment as a human woman continued fighting even after being hit in the leg. She crawled behind cover, bandaged herself, and then rejoined the battle. "They don't know when they're beaten," he said to his second-in-command. "It's not natural." By day 47, the Xarketh had lost nearly 400 warriors. The humans had lost people too, but they kept fighting with the same strength as on the first day. Then the human reinforcements arrived. 3 large Earth ships appeared in the sky, and the Xarketh finally retreated. Later, Kraz Tul sent a report to his leaders. "These humans do not surrender. They do not stop when injured. They keep fighting beyond all reason. They are not like other species we have faced. They are something new, something dangerous." The story of Proxima Centauri spread through the galaxy. The Concord had never seen a colony survive such an attack. They began to look at humans with new eyes, and with growing fear. After the battle at Proxima Centauri, the Galactic Concord became very interested in understanding humans better. They formed a special group of scientists to study human psychology. Dr. Karen Foster, a human expert in brain science, was asked to work with them. The leader of the alien scientists was Zurvel, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 eyes and 6 fingers on each hand. His species, the Trilari, were known for their calm, logical minds. "I don't understand why you're so interested in how we think," Karen said during their first meeting at the Concord Science Center on Earth. Zerval blinked his 4 eyes in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his people. What happened at Proxima Centauri was unusual. No other species we know would have kept fighting like that. Karen smiled. "We can be stubborn." "It's more than stubbornness," Zerval said. "We believe humans have a unique relationship with fear." Over the next few months, the team ran many tests. They showed humans and aliens the same scary images and measured how their bodies reacted. They asked questions about what people would do in dangerous situations. They even watched how people from different species played video games with frightening parts. One day, Zerval invited Karen to watch a special test. A human volunteer named Adam Pierce, a military training expert, was playing a war simulation game against a Xarketh warrior. The game put them in a virtual forest where they had to find and catch each other. Adam was clearly afraid. His heart beat faster, he sweated, and his body showed all the normal signs of fear. But unlike the Xarketh player, who became careful and moved slowly when scared, Adam became more focused and moved faster. "Do you see?" Zerval asked Karen. "Your people used fear differently. For most species, fear makes us stop and be careful. For humans, it often makes you act more boldly." Later that week, the team watched human movies, horror films where people were chased by monsters or killers. The alien scientists were confused. "You make these for entertainment?" asked a green-skinned scientist named Plex. "You feel fear on purpose. Some people enjoy being scared in safe ways," Karen explained. "It's like practice for real danger." The biggest surprise for the aliens came when they studied human history. They learned about thousands of years of war and fighting. They saw how humans kept making better weapons and finding new ways to fight. Admiral Eric Summers was invited to speak to the science team about human military thinking. He was an older man with gray hair who had fought in wars on Earth before humans met aliens. "Can you explain what you call fighting spirit?" Zerval asked him. Eric thought for a moment. "It's the will to keep going when everything seems lost. To fight even when you're hurt, tired, and scared. To never give up." "But why?" asked Plex. "If you are losing, isn't it smarter to surrender and save lives?" Eric smiled sadly. "Sometimes, but humans have learned through our long history that those who give up are often destroyed anyway. Sometimes fighting against impossible odds is the only way to survive." That evening, Zerval wrote a report for the Concord leaders. His hand shook slightly as he typed. "Humans appear to be psychological anomalies in the known galaxy. They can feel fear, sometimes even more strongly than other species, but they can choose to act despite it. More disturbing, they seem to use fear as a tool, both against enemies and to make themselves stronger. They have developed a culture that values continuing through pain, exhaustion, and terror. Most troubling of all is their concept of fighting spirit. Humans see giving up as worse than dying. They would rather face terrible odds than surrender, because deep in their cultural memory, they believe that fighting might save at least some of them. In short, humans don't just overcome fear, they weaponize it. And that makes them potentially the most dangerous combatants the Concord has ever encountered." The Xarketh did not forget their defeat at Proxima Centauri. For 2 years, they built bigger ships and trained more warriors. Then they attacked not just one world, but 5 Concord planets at the same time. The Concord was not ready for such a big attack. Their ships were spread too thin across their many worlds. In desperation, they asked Earth for help. Humans had only been part of the Concord for a short time. They were still new members, still learning the ways of space. But they had ships, they had soldiers, and they agreed to help. Captain Olivia Bennett stood on the bridge of the UESC cruiser Determination. Her ship was smaller than the giant vessels of the Concorde fleet, but it was fast and had powerful weapons. 4 other human ships flew with her as they traveled to Ta City, where the worst fighting was happening. Status report, Olivia said as they came out of faster-than-light travel near the battleground. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Frank Cooper, looked worried as he read the screen. Not good, Captain. The main Concorde fleet was ambushed. Half their ships are gone. The XRKeth had them surrounded. Olivia studied the battle map. 20 Concorde ships were trapped in a tight circle, with 30 XRKeth warships closing in. The Concorde ships were firing, but they were losing. Open a channel to all human ships, she ordered. When the connection was ready, she spoke clearly. This is Captain Bennett. The Concorde fleet needs our help, but we're outnumbered. I'm proposing Operation Thunderclap. There was silence for a moment. Operation Thunderclap was a risky plan they had practiced, but never used in real battle. It meant using their own ships as bait to draw enemy fire. All ships agree, Frank said after a moment. They're ready to follow your lead. Olivia nodded. Send a message to the Concorde fleet. Tell them to be ready to move when we create an opening. The 5 human ships moved in a tight formation toward the battle. They flew directly at the largest group of XRKeth ships, firing all weapons. They're taking the bait, Frank said. 10 enemy ships are breaking off to attack us. Perfect, Olivia said, though her face was tense. Prepare to split formation on my mark. The human ships continued forward until the last possible moment. Then, at Olivia's command, they scattered in 5 different directions. The XRKeth ships, confused by this sudden change, split up to chase them. On the bridge of the main Concorde ship, Admiral Vex Lore watched in confusion. What are they doing? They're drawing fire away from us, but they'll be destroyed. His tactical officer, a being with tentacles instead of arms, looked equally puzzled. It appears to be a deliberate sacrifice. Admiral, I've never seen this tactic before. The human ships took heavy damage as they led the XRKeth ships away from the trapped Concorde fleet. The determination shook as enemy weapons hit it again and again. Hull breach on Deck 3. Someone shouted. We've lost engines 2 and 4. Despite the damage, Olivia stayed calm. Keep firing. We need to hold their attention just a little longer. Inside the ship, crew members worked in smoke-filled corridors. Some were injured, but they kept working. A young engineer named Paul Wright continued fixing wiring, even though his arm was badly burned. When the XRKeth ships were fully committed to chasing the humans, Olivia sent the signal to the Concorde fleet. They immediately broke through the weakened enemy line and escaped the trap. The battle ended 3 hours later. 2 human ships were destroyed. The other 3, including the Determination, were badly damaged, but the Concorde fleet was saved, and the XRKeth retreated. In the medical bay after the battle, Admiral Vex Lore visited Captain Bennett, who was having a wound on her head treated. Why did you do this? He asked. You nearly lost all your ships. Olivia looked surprised by the question. Because it worked, and because some of us surviving is better than all of us dying. The Admiral stared at her for a long moment. After today, the Concorde will never look at humans the same way again. He didn't say what they all knew, that the galaxy had just learned to fear humans not just for their strength, but for their willingness to sacrifice themselves in battle. After the Battle of Ta City, the Concorde made a shocking discovery, that XRKeth were not acting alone. They were being controlled by a mysterious species that no one had ever seen before. This hidden enemy was called the Void Collective. The Void Collective lived in the empty spaces between star systems. They looked like black mists that could form into shapes. They had powerful minds that could reach out and control the thoughts of other beings. They had been secretly influencing the XRKeth for years, making them attack the Concorde. A captured XRKeth warrior finally broke free of their control long enough to warn the Concorde. They fear the humans, he said before he died. The humans resist their mind powers. The Concord Council called an emergency meeting. Scientists from many species studied this new threat. Professor Daniel Wright, a human brain expert, led the research. The Void Collective uses psychic powers to control other beings, Daniel explained to the council. They send thoughts directly into the minds of their targets. But for some reason, humans seem partly protected from this. The council leader, a tall insect-like being named Zixmoon, looked troubled. Can you explain why? Daniel showed brain scans on a large screen. Most species in the Concord have organized, logical thought patterns, but human minds are messier. We have many thoughts at once. We feel emotion and logic together. This chaos in our minds makes it harder for the collective to get full control. The Concord realized they needed humans to fight this new enemy. They asked for volunteers to test human resistance to mind control. Many brave people stepped forward. Grace Rodriguez, a commander in the UESC Special Forces, was chosen to lead a small team. They would try to enter a Void Collective base hidden on a small moon. Their mission was to learn more about this enemy and find their weakness. Grace picked 5 soldiers for her team. They trained for weeks, learning how to protect their minds. They practiced focusing on simple thoughts and strong emotions, which seemed to block the collective's influence. On the day of the mission, Grace spoke to her team. This will be the hardest thing you've ever done. The collective will try to get in your heads. They'll try to make you see things that aren't real. They'll try to turn you against each other. Remember your training. Their small ship landed quietly on the dark moon. The air was thin but breathable. As soon as they stepped outside, they felt the attack on their minds. "They're here," whispered Sergeant Alan Price, one of Grace's team. His eyes were wide with fear. "I can feel them pushing into my thoughts." Grace felt it too, like cold fingers touching her brain. She saw shadows moving at the edge of her vision. She heard whispers telling her to turn back, to be afraid, to give up. "Focus on the mission," she said through clenched teeth, "one step at a time." The team moved forward, fighting against the mental attack with every step. 2 soldiers began to hallucinate, seeing monsters that weren't there. Grace had to slap one of them to bring him back to reality. Despite the mental pain, they reached the center of the base. There they found strange black crystals that seemed to pulse with dark energy. Grace ordered her team to plant explosives around the crystals. As they worked, the mental attacks grew stronger. One soldier collapsed, blood running from his nose as his mind broke under the pressure. Another began to scream, tearing at his own face. But Grace and the others finished their task. They carried their fallen friends back to the ship and escaped just before the explosives destroyed the base. Later, in the medical center on Earth, doctors examined the team. All of them had brain damage from the psychic attack, but they had completed their mission. The crystals they destroyed were a key part of the collective's power. In their hidden places between the stars, the Void Collective felt fear for the first time. They had never met beings who could resist them like this. They began to call humans the unbroken minds, and they started to plan more carefully for their next attack. The Concord now understood something new about humans. Not only could they fight through physical pain, but they could also endure mental attacks that would destroy other species, and that made them the perfect weapon against the Void Collective. The war against the Void Collective grew more difficult each day. The Black Mist beings could hide anywhere and strike without warning. They continued to control weaker minds, turning friends into enemies. No one knew who to trust anymore. Colonel Samuel Fisher stood before the Concord War Council with a bold new idea. He was tall and lean, with a serious face and eyes that had seen too much fighting. "We need to create a special team," he said, "a mix of humans and other species. Each brings different strengths. Together, we can fight in ways the collective won't expect." Many council members looked doubtful. Admiral Zex of the Trill species shook his head. "Mixed units don't work well. Different species think and fight too differently." "That's exactly why we need this," Samuel replied. "The Void Collective expects us to think in certain ways. We need to surprise them. After much debate, the council agreed to try his plan. Samuel picked fighters from 5 different species. Humans would lead because of their resistance to mind control. He also chose Brel warriors for their strength, Vex scouts for their keen senses, Trilleri engineers for their technical skills, and even 2 Xarketh who had broken free from collective control. A young human named Amy Powell joined as the team's communication specialist. Her job was to help the different species understand each other and work together. It wasn't easy. The Brel thought humans were too weak. The Vex thought everyone else was too slow. The Xarketh were not trusted by anyone. During their first training exercise, a fight broke out between a Brel and a Xarketh. Amy stepped between them. "This is what the collective wants," she said firmly. "They want us fighting each other instead of them." Slowly, the team learned to work together. They trained in ways no one had tried before. Samuel taught them human battle tactics that other species found strange and sometimes disturbing. "Humans fight dirty," said Krell, one of the Xarketh, after learning about setting traps and ambushes. "We call it asymmetric warfare," Samuel explained. "When you're weaker than your enemy, you use whatever advantage you can find." The council sent the mixed team on their first real mission, to destroy a void collective communication center hidden deep in an asteroid field. This center was how the collective sent their mind control signals to their slaves. The team's ship approached quietly, using special shields to hide from sensors. But something went wrong. Alarms sounded as they neared the asteroid. "They've spotted us," Amy called out. "They're sending ships to attack." Samuel didn't panic. "Switch to Plan B," he ordered. Plan B was something no Concord commander would ever have tried. Instead of running away, the team flew directly toward the enemy ships at full speed. The collective ships scattered, not expecting such a reckless move. In the confusion, the team reached the asteroid and landed. They fought their way inside the base, each species using their special skills. The Brel smashed through walls. The Vex found hidden enemies. The Trilleri disabled security systems. The Xarketh guided them through the base layout, which was similar to others they knew. The humans led the charge, pushing forward even when the collective attacked their minds. Amy kept everyone coordinated, translating orders quickly between species. They'd reached the center of the base and planted explosives. As they escaped, the whole asteroid erupted in flames behind them. Back at Concord headquarters, the council was amazed by their success. 3 more mixed teams were formed immediately. A Concord general asked Samuel how humans came up with such unusual tactics. "We had to," Samuel explained. "Throughout our history, humans often fought enemies with better weapons or more soldiers. We learned to use creativity instead of just strength." The Void Collective was now truly afraid. Their leaders sent a message across their network. "Humans teach others to fight like them. The danger spreads. We must destroy them first, before they teach the whole galaxy how to resist us." What the collective didn't understand was that their fear was exactly what made humans stronger. The more afraid your enemy is, the more mistakes they make. And humans were very good at using their enemies' mistakes against them. The Void Collective had grown desperate. Their hidden bases were being found and destroyed. Their mind-controlled servants were breaking free. For the first time in their long history, they were losing a war. They decided to make one final terrible attack. Directly on Earth. Linda Harrison, Chief of Operations for Earth's Defense Forces, was in her office when the alarm sounded. Reports flooded in from observation posts throughout the solar system. Hundreds of ships were appearing near Pluto, more than anyone had ever seen before. "They're coming straight for us," her assistant said, face pale with fear. Linda's expression remained calm, though her heart raced. "Send out the alert. All civilians to shelters, all defense personnel to stations, and get me the Concord Council on the line." Across Earth, people heard the warning sirens, but something strange happened. Instead of panic in the streets, there was order. People moved quickly but calmly to underground shelters. Those with medical training reported to hospitals. Retired soldiers volunteered at defense posts. In orbit, Earth's small fleet prepared to meet the enemy. They knew they couldn't win against so many ships. Their job was only to slow the attack until help could arrive. The collective ships pushed through Earth's defenses like they were nothing. Within hours, black pods began falling to the planet's surface. When they opened, shadow-like beings emerged and began their assault. In a small town in the western part of North America, engineer Brandon Miller watched the collective forces approach from his workshop window. He wasn't a soldier, but he knew he had to do something. He looked around at his tools and half-finished projects. "Time to get creative," he said to himself. Brandon gathered his neighbors and showed them how to turn everyday items into weapons. Car batteries became electric traps. Garden tools became weapons. Remote-controlled toys became scouts and bomb carriers. All across Earth, people did similar things. Farmers used tractors to block roads and set traps. Teachers protected children while organizing supply lines. Office workers became messengers and medics. On board the main collective ship, a being named Void Prime watched the battle with growing confusion. It had expected humans to break and run when faced with such an overwhelming attack. Instead, they were fighting back from every house, every building, every street corner. How do they keep resisting? Void Prime asked the ship's sensors. Our mind control should be working on at least some of them. But the humans had been preparing for this. Based on what they learned from Grace Rodriguez's team, they had developed simple mental exercises that helped block the collective's influence. Even children knew how to guard their thoughts now. As days passed, the Void Collective's forces began to take heavy losses. The humans fought with whatever they had. When they ran out of weapons, they'd made new ones. When they lost ground, they set traps and then retreated, only to attack again from a new direction. Then something unexpected happened. Far-Keth ships appeared in Earth's orbit, but they weren't attacking humans. They were firing on the collective ships. Word spread quickly that Xarketh had broken free from collective control. After seeing how humans fought, they had gained new respect for these strange beings. Now they wanted revenge against their former masters. Void Prime watched in disbelief as Far-Keth warriors joined humans on the ground, fighting side by side against the collective forces. The Xarketh fought with new tactics they had learned from humans, unpredictable, creative, and fiercely determined. "Fall back," Void Prime finally ordered. "We cannot win this fight." As the collective ships retreated, Linda Harrison stood in the ruins of her command center. The building was half destroyed, but the communications still worked. "We've held," she reported to the Concord Council. "Earth still stands." A council member asked how many human soldiers had fought. Linda smiled tiredly. "You don't understand. Every human fought. We don't need to be soldiers to defend our home." That was the moment the Concord truly understood. Humans weren't just dangerous because of their special forces or their military technology. Every single human was a potential fighter. And that made Earth the most terrifying planet in the galaxy. 1 year had passed since the battle for Earth. The Void Collective had retreated to the far edges of known space. Their power was broken, their forces scattered. The galaxy was at peace again. On the Concord's central world, a grand ceremony was being held. Today, humans would officially join the Concord as full members, not just associates. The great meeting hall was filled with beings from hundreds of worlds. Ambassador Sofia Martinez walked slowly to the center of the hall. She was small compared to many of the alien representatives, but everyone watched her with respect and a hint of fear. "On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I thank the Concord for this honor," Sofia said. Her voice was gentle but carried to every corner of the vast room. "We look forward to an age of peace and cooperation among all our peoples." The Concord High Speaker, a tall being with skin like golden scales, placed a crystal medallion around Sofia's neck. "Humanity has earned its place among the stars," the speaker said. Without your courage, the collective might have conquered us all. The crowd cheered, their voices and other sound-making organs creating a strange but joyful noise. In public, the galaxy celebrated humanity's bravery. But later that day, behind closed doors, the Concord Council met in private. The mood was very different. "We cannot ignore the human problem," said Councillor Vex of the Trill. "Yes, they helped defeat the collective. But did you see how quickly they adapted to war? How easily they taught other species to fight like them?" Another councillor, a blue-skinned being named Zara, nodded. Before humans, the Exarcheth were predictable enemies. Now they use human tactics. They've become much more dangerous. "Should we be worried about human expansion?" asked a small, furry councillor. "They're already building colonies faster than any species we've seen." The council called in Dr. Kevin Russell, a human scientist who had been studying the reconstruction efforts on Earth. They wanted to understand how humans recovered from war. Kevin showed them images of rebuilt cities, new farms, and busy factories. "We've not only repaired the damage," he explained, "we've improved many systems. Our defenses are stronger now. Our buildings are better." The council members exchanged troubled looks. Most species took decades to recover from major attacks. Humans had done it in months. "Do you ever worry," asked Councillor Vex carefully, "that other species might fear humans?" Kevin looked surprised. "Why would they? We fought to protect everyone, not just ourselves." "Yes, but," Vex struggled to explain, "the way humans fight, the way you never give up, your willingness to use any means necessary. These things are frightening to many species." Kevin thought about this for a moment. "I understand. But remember, the best part about humans isn't how well we fight. It's how quickly we make peace afterward." After Kevin left, the council made a decision. Human worlds would be welcomed into the Concord, but they would be positioned far from the more vulnerable species, just in case. Meanwhile, something strange was happening. The Exarcheth, once enemies of all other species, had become humanity's closest allies. They visited Earth in growing numbers. They learned human languages, tried human foods, and adopted human customs. When asked why, a Exarcheth leader explained, "For generations, we valued strength above all. But humans showed us something new, the strength to show mercy, to make peace with enemies. This is a power we never understood before." At the very end of the ceremony day, the oldest member of the Concord Council spoke privately to his assistant. He had lived for 300 years and had seen many species join the galactic community. "Remember this," the elder said. "In times of peace, cherish the humans. In times of war, thank whatever gods you worship that they're on our side." As if to prove his point, in a park nearby, alien children watched in wonder and fear as human children climbed tall trees, jumped from high branches, and laughed when they fell. The alien parents couldn't understand why human parents allowed such dangerous play. They didn't realize they were watching the next generation of the galaxy's most terrifying combatants learning to overcome fear, one playground at a time.